Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of The County Seat. I'm your host, Chad Booth. This is the show that's about local government, not local politics. When you say the word tax sale, there are things that come to mind. Maybe Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm and the evil foreclosure of the mortgage, or maybe the sheriff of Nottingham. However, tax sales are a part of life. Are they really dark and evil? We don't think so. We're going to find out about tax sales, and we're going to begin by talking to Terry Wood about how the tax sale process works when you're late on your taxes.
If you own a home, you pay property taxes, or at least you're supposed to. For most of us, the property taxes are included in our mortgage payment, in the escrow. The bank pays it directly. But if it's not, you have to pay it directly. Now, every October, you'll get a little tax bill like this from the county. What happens if you don't pay it? Well, the county will catch up with you.
Now, it doesn't happen after just being 90 days late, but it does happen after 5 years of not paying property taxes. Your property will go to auction. However, the county will try to contact you.
The county will send out 3 notices in a year. Evaluation notice in July saying what the projected taxes are to be, the actual tax notice in October, and then if people don't pay in November, by the end of November, they'll get a delinquent notice in February.
Delinquencies on property tax are rare, and they only affect less than 1% of the population. But if you are behind, the most important thing to do is contact the county and figure out a solution, because doing nothing will not stop a tax sale.
The longer you wait, there's more interest, penalty, and fees that end up being assessed. The thing that is always a concern is people procrastinating or waiting till the very last minute. And we, by statute, have to sell property that has outstanding balances once they're at 5 years. So if there are problems and issues that we have to work for and people wait until a week before the sale, then it really cuts down the window by which we can do the due diligence or come up with solutions.
The tax sale is different from what you might imagine a bankruptcy or foreclosure sale on the courthouse steps.
A tax sale is an annual sale of property for delinquent taxes. It's a different animal. It's the government seizing and selling property versus when a bank or a private entity is seizing and selling property that they have a lien against. So we have a much higher requirement for notification, making sure that everything is done correctly.
To prepare for the tax sale, we first of all make sure everybody's received proper notification, that we've identified the appropriate owners, and that the people that are responsible receive notice. Then those that have received notice, then we make effort to see what things we can do to mitigate or make to a reasonable situation, with always the importance of getting the taxes paid.
If the taxes are not paid within the 5-year period and some sort of payment plan cannot be worked out, the property must be sold.
It is the day of reckoning, and if they haven't done it by that point, it's over. We have to sell the property at that point.
We go ahead and, by law, offer up the properties for sale. Anything that is vacant land, remainder pieces, etc., we go ahead and bid those up, with the minimum bid being the amount of taxes, interest, and penalty that's due and owing.
Tax sales have been the subject of many a get-rich-quick scheme. That may sound exciting, but it's important to have done your homework.
Everybody is required to do their due diligence, and if they don't and they buy it, they are held accountable. So people should never come to these sales with the idea that they're going to get something really good. They need to really know what they're doing and be prepared.
It's also important to remember that your tax dollars go to a number of key community services that you enjoy every day.
In fact, about 70% of your property taxes go to the school districts. It's all right here on your property tax bill. So when you get this, remember, don't put it in a drawer and forget it. For the county seat, I'm Terry Wood.
Thanks, Terry. That's a real good foundation to start with. But we do need to still look at the broad misperceptions of tax sales and some of the crazy notions that just don't apply. We will talk to some of the clerk auditors across the state when we come back in our discussion on property taxes and tax sales on the county seat.
anything worth doing in this quiet little town?
You strike me as the kind of girl that likes a manicure and a massage.
I was hoping for something a little more vigorous.
Vigorous, I can do.
And I thought you'd be riding side saddle.
What? I'm gonna regret this.
You go through the day-to-day repeating what you did yesterday. Don't you wish you could access that piece of your life that's missing? Find the beauty, serenity, family fun, or anything else that's missing from your life in the Cedar City, Bryan Head area. Gain access to your adventure, whether it's camping, hiking, the arts, festivals, or just a getaway. Visit ScenicSouthernUtah.com for details on all the adventures that you can access in scenic Southern Utah.
Bryce Valley ATV UTV Jamboree here in Panguitch has been a great place to come, a great place to bring your family. The town is so welcoming to all of us that come here. It's probably one of the best jamborees I've been to.
Carbon County is typically known for its industry and coal production. But did you know that Utah's Castle Country has something for everyone? The motocross track has been acclaimed as the most popular in Utah with a variety of technical and natural terrain, and even includes a pee-wee track. Visit castlecountry.com for more information.
Welcome back to the county seat. We are talking about tax sales and the task of the clerk auditor to collect those property taxes that you may not have wanted to. So I'm going to start this conversation by introducing our panel. We have Brian Thompson. We're going south to north here. Clerk auditor from Utah County. From Davis County, Steve Rawlings. Thank you for joining us. And from Weber County on the north, Ricky Hatch. Okay, going to throw this out to all three of you. Do you ever feel like the sheriff of Nottingham?
That's a great question, Jeff.
Do you want me to respond first?
Please do.
I will. Very seldom do I feel like the sheriff of Nottingham because the job that I have to do in Davis County is more protector of the county assets.
Okay, well that's a good answer, but it's the key on which we want to start because we want to deal with the misperceptions of tax sales and the task that you all have in dealing with and getting delinquent taxes paid. As we learned in the story, there are penalties and fees that are assessed on top of the taxes. And in addition to those penalties and interest that's charged, they cover the costs of different related expenses. But then if one does go to sale, there's still extra money. Where does that money go?
Well, one of the key things I think to take out of this whole thing is that the county only takes enough money from the sale of the property to make itself whole. In other words, to cover the outstanding interest, taxes, and related penalties and fees. However, any extra money doesn't go to the county, it actually goes back to the property owner. This is not a moneymaker at all for the county. That's never been the intent or the desire. We return all the money back to the property owner, all the excess money.
Is there a particular route that goes through?
The code requires that to go back to the state and then be dispersed to the property owner. However, there are instances in many of the counties where we're able to, because of the timing of the situation and the agreement from the state, we're able to dispense that directly back to the taxpayer, the owner of the property.
I would like to address that situation of the taxpayer redeeming his own property.
Well, of course, we encourage that they come in up until the time the sale begins and redeem the property and pay the taxes that are due and owing, and then we'll pull it off the sale. But should it go to the sale, they still have the opportunity to bid on it. But the key is we consider it then just a redemption of the property. It's not a means where they can go ahead then and get clear title and clear off any lien holders or anything that way and kind of perfect their position in the property, which some people falsely think they can do. But they can always redeem the property, and they can always bid on it and pay the taxes that are due.
Obviously, there's not an advantage because you can't get in front of your lien holder in the possession of the property. But what other risks are there in doing this? Waiting to the sale.
Someone can outbid you.
Has that happened?
Well, the starting bid amount is actually the amount of taxes plus the fees and interest and penalties. And so, in essence, they would be just guaranteeing that they would probably pay more than if they had paid it directly prior to the tax sale. There's really no upside whatsoever to wait until your property actually goes up for bid, because you're going to pay at least the amount that you owe already.
I think that's the key comment. They cannot gain an advantage by waiting and bidding on the property. Their advantage really comes in paying it off early.
And as I mentioned, then if there's someone else that also has interest in that property, they potentially...
Have you ever actually heard of somebody waiting till they got to sell, they start bidding on their property, they get outbid and they lose the house? Has that happened?
It never has in Davis County since I've been in office.
Okay, well...
But I've heard of people that have wanted to perfect their position and have tried that route. But
have there ever been any properties that have gone on the block and you haven't gotten any bids on them? Does this happen?
Yes.
Why? I mean, how would that situation come up?
In Davis County, that comes up quite frequently because there are small pieces of property that a developer may have left over after developing the subdivision that somebody doesn't really want. Now, a lot of times, though, those get purchased because they are adjoining a person's property and they want that additional property. So they'll come in and bid on those, or it will be treated as a preferential sale to that particular property.
But how do you get notice that it's there? Because if the developer just put his fence up 3 feet short of his property and that strip was there, you're still assessing for it, aren't you?
We are, and he's not paying because he doesn't feel like it's worth
How
paying
does he
for.
figure out not to pay for that?
That's a good question.
Does he just say, I'm not paying this much because I don't use this, or does it actually have to be redrawn in property lines?
well, everything is assessed based upon a legal description. And in the process of developing these subdivisions and that, there's these little strips and remainder pieces that just get forgotten about, and developers go, well, it doesn't mean anything to me, I'm just going to ignore it. And so they just get ignored. And because they're assessed and there are taxes that are due, then someone, after ignoring it for 5 years, it'll come up at tax sale and people go, oh, yeah, there's still this piece out there, and that's how they come to be.
So what happens when you get to a spot where, I mean, who ends up with it if the adjacent property owner doesn't want it and nobody comes up? What happens to the property?
Struck off to the county by statute.
And
if there's no bids, it's struck off to the county.
So then what do you do with it?
We're able to then take it off the tax rolls in Utah County.
In Davis County, we identify those properties, and then we have an individual that we have deal with surplus property sales, and we then advertise that as surplus property. And generally, once that happens, the individual that is adjoining that property comes in and purchases it because he doesn't want somebody else gaining an interest in the back of his property.
It's pretty much the same in Weber County as well.
Well, so what happens if somebody underpays on their taxes? They owe you $300 and they pay you $200 for 3 or 4 years in a row, and they say that's all. Does that property still go to tax sale?
Unfortunately, it does. When according to statute, when payment is made, it applies to the most recent year's taxes. This is to prevent people from continually underpaying and continually having taxes in arrears in perpetuity. So it applies to the most recent tax and then goes backwards. So and tax sale is based on the oldest tax date.
Okay, so basically it accelerates them getting to the point where they go to tax sale because all the money's being front-end loaded, and it's the old part of the money that becomes what's paid.
That is correct.
Is that a shocker to people when all of a sudden you get a tax sale notice and they've been doing that?
Many times.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll be back with the county seat in just a minute.
The best part about raising children here in Vernal and the Uinta Basin is just the smaller community that makes you feel like when you go somewhere, you know everybody.
It's not too big, it's not too small. We're close to the Wasatch Front if there's anything we need out there.
So we packed up our 3 kids and here we came to Uinta County. And what a great place it was. What a great move.
My job has offered me the ability to college educate all 3 of my children.
My father, he was an engineer for Chevron, retired 39 some odd years. And Jeff, my husband, it's the same way. He's always worked in the oil and gas, always had a job here.
Uinta Basin has been fantastic in supporting what we've tried to do both as a business and also in the development of mountain bike trails and the sport of mountain biking.
It's one of the big reasons why I live where I live is I'm able to run up to a beautiful place like this and spend some good quality time. There's always plenty to do in Uinta County.
Unlimited opportunity for adventure? It's all about knowing where to look. Make plans now to be a part of the best small town fair in Utah, in Delta, Utah. Honoring our servicemen and women, Millard County's agricultural heritage is highlighted and its residents' accomplishments celebrated during the county fair. The opportunities are limitless. Pick your adventure in Millard County.
If you haven't been to Starvation in a while, you're in for a great surprise. New campsites, new cabins, and beach improvements await your next visit. Just 3 hours away, but a world away from the Wasatch Front in Duchesne County. Starvation State Park is located 4 miles northwest of Duchesne, just off US Highway 40. Duchesne County. Close enough for business, far enough to get away.
Welcome back to the county seat. Our topic today is tax sales. The tax man cometh, and he taketh the property away. But as we're finding out, that's not really the case, and it's the last thing on the county's mind when they put a property up for sale. Just a couple of other questions, because we were kind of on a roll, and then I want to change directions. Has there ever been a property that the taxes were so high on it, it exceeded the value of the property? And I guess where this comes from is I'm thinking, okay, we had a big value bubble and there were taxes collected, and then you had in some communities where property values dropped 60%. And then all of a sudden after the crash, those properties are not worth what they once were, and they still have these taxes due. Have you ever come up with a sale where it's gone to sale and there were still taxes owing after the sale?
I can think of one instance where that occurred. And it didn't involve the scenario you mentioned, but a similar one, and that is, you may recall that in Davis County, we had some properties that were sliding.
Oh, yeah.
And it was one of those properties in Layton that I can think of that would fit the scenario where the value of that property, before it was identified as a slide property, was significantly higher than the value would have been after the houses had to be removed and the slide property was. So the taxes that were then owing it was put up for surplus sale, as I mentioned earlier, and actually a negotiated sale with Layton City took place on that, and then the property was used for trail work.
Okay, let's reverse that role. Okay, well, let's just take the average homeowner and we go into an inflationary cycle and our houses become worth more and more and more. You know, how are the counties profiting from that?
They actually aren't, because by law, we're not allowed to collect more than we budget for. And so the certified tax rate that's assessed fluctuates according to the valuation. So as values go up, the certified rate has to come down. If values go down, the certified rate will go up. But overall, we only collect the same amount unless we hold a truth in taxation hearing. And of course, we are allowed to participate in new growth that comes into the area in the taxing districts.
So basically, you guys are on a fixed budget unless you increase the taxes. Is that probably the easiest way to put it?
Yeah, and the common misperception is, and I'm glad you brought that up, so many times you hear individuals say, well, the county just wants more money, so they appraised my property for more. Well, as a matter of fact, we get the same amount of money regardless of what the value is of their property. There's really no link between those two things. It's just a matter of divvying it up, the full property amount, and then spreading that across the county budget.
So there might be an isolated instance where you are paying a little bit more because of the assessment, but the assessments across the county average out, and as those aggregates go up, the tax rates go down.
And that's a great point. They average out across, because there will be some areas in your county that might be increasing in value. People see a little bit, and there's some that might be decreasing, but it's over the whole county. It all averages out.
And I'm really glad you asked the question, because the misperception that's out there is with the majority of the people, and I think this is good for them to help them understand. As Brian said, truth in taxation, according to the Utah Code, only allows us to collect the same amount of money as we did the year before. And the only addition to that would be, again, as stated already, the new growth or a tax increase that you have to go to a public meeting for and get a voice of the people.
Let's talk about the Board of Equalization and how people go through the process of disagreeing with their tax bill, seeing as how we're on this thing of valuation and the taxes they're paying. Anybody do you want to start with that, Ricky?
You bet. Board of Equalization is a great opportunity for taxpayers to say, I disagree with the value that you've given me, and there's a defined process that the Board of Equalization helps lead them through to help them appeal that, and they can appeal the decision that's made. There's a series of steps that gives them a chance to have their voice heard by an independent analyst who takes a look at the property.
Okay. Anything you guys want to add to that?
In Davis County, as we send out the valuation notices, and that comes out from the auditor of the county, which would be our position, that is going to be sent out this year on the 23rd and 24th of July. But as we send that out, we actually include in that packet a form for them to appeal and give them the instructions on how to do that.
So basically, just look at your tax bill. Great. We'll pick up this conversation right after this commercial break on the county seat. I hope you're finding this as informative as I am. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Rediscover your sense of adventure. Welcome to San Juan County. Discover the past. A change of place. Utah's San Juan County, where life is elevated.
County presents the 11th annual Juab County Fair Demolition Derby, August 10th in Nephi. Watch as over 100 drivers from all over the West battle to claim their share of over $30,000 in prize money and be crowned the 2013 champion. Get to Nephi for a great night of entertainment. Tickets are available now at juabcountyfair.com. All seating is reserved. Purchase your tickets now while they're still available. Don't miss all the car-crashing action, August 10th in Nephi. Remember, at the Juab County Fair Demolition Derby, we don't restore them, we destroy them!
Sometimes you need to go out in search of adventure. And the place to find it is Marysville, Utah, August 7th through the 10th at the 5th Annual Paiute Trail UTV Jamboree. Come enjoy the adventures of Paiute County, rafting the Sevier River, boating and fishing Otter Creek, or ride horseback through scenery that defines the West, Paiute County, and the UTV Jamboree. Bring your family and discover the magic and beauty of the land, where the rainbow ends.
Welcome back to the county seat. Our topic today, of course, has been tax sales, tax properties. It's an appropriate time because here we are in the late part of July and summer's rolling along and the tax notices are just showing up. So if any of you are there in sticker shock going, at your tax bill, this has been a good show for you to watch because you know what's coming down the pike and how to deal with it. Final thoughts for everybody, and we'll start from south in Utah County and work our way up towards Weber. Go ahead.
Just following up with what Steve was saying, when those evaluation notices come out, which people will be receiving this time of year, there is a place on there where there are instructions on how they can go ahead and appeal their evaluation. And we're really here to assist the public. I've always felt that I'm not only protecting the interests of the county, but I'm a protector of the citizen. I'm that liaison. And so it's important, if they have any questions, if they're in doubt or anything, call us. We'll help step them through it, because that's what we're here for.
And this is the time to do it, because in November, when you call for the money to be turned in, they can't appeal at that point.
No, it's actually, they have to file a special appeal why they missed the deadline. So don't procrastinate, just take care of it and do it now, and we'll help you through it.
Okay, Steve.
I think that you mentioned a special appeal. Let's just briefly and quickly cover that. If there are medical or death in the family, those kind of things, then we can go beyond that deadline that was just mentioned. The other thing that I'd mentioned a little bit earlier was the scenario of some companies out there that try and convince the taxpayers that these tax sales have the ability for them to come in and make all kinds of money by investing in property. I can give you the numbers on Davis County this year. We started out with 202 properties, and by the time we got to tax sale, only 2 of them were bid on. The others were redeemed and or struck to the county. 2 of them struck to the county. So that misperception probably needs to be cleared up too.
So basically you're saying if a company's telling you you can make millions of dollars buying tax sale properties,
not going to happen.
You get one every 10 years or something like that?
Yeah.
In other words, don't believe those infomercials that run late at night.
That's right.
Okay, Ricky.
Well, tax sale is probably the least pleasant task that we as county auditors have. Nobody wants to take somebody's property away from them and auction it off. Unfortunately, we have to have some enforcement of the taxes so that the county gets the funds that it needs to run. The good news is the county has personnel in place that are willing, we're ready to bend over backwards to help the taxpayer avoid even getting close to this. So I guess the idea is, if you're starting to fall behind your taxes, contact your county as soon as possible, and we can work something out. We can figure out a way to help get you to this point, get the taxes paid, so we don't even have to worry about selling anything.
Is it not fair for people not to pay their taxes? I mean, that's an obvious question, but there's a comment in there that I think should come from clerk auditors about the fact that we all have to chip in together to run a county, and this isn't the way to protest.
That's right, because in the end, the protester will always lose in this case. There are other ways. Talk to your representatives. Try to, if you want to adjust how property taxes or how taxes are collected in general, there's an avenue for that, and not paying your property taxes is not a good avenue.
One thing I might interject is that we're all in this together. We all benefit from the services provided by the taxes collected. We have individuals out there who sacrifice in their budget and do things necessary to pay their taxes, and so it's only responsible everybody contribute and do their part. And then our role as elected officials is to make sure that it's done fairly, the citizens are protected, and the interests of the county and the overall society and taxpayers are protected.
The taxpayers that are paying their taxes actually get a 30% return on those that go delinquent. So it's not like they're getting taken advantage of.
Oh, you mean with the penalties and interest and other things. So anybody that's like using their taxes by not paying them as a loan, they end up paying interest on them anyway.
They do, and penalties.
And penalties. So that's a great way to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching The County Seat. Remember, this is the program that is the most important to your life, because county government is where your life happens. Tell your friends about it. You can watch this again on our website, thecountyseat.tv. There you can link to our Facebook page and make comments. We will look for you next week on The County Seat. Gentlemen, thank you all.
Thank you.